Hello, and welcome to Operation Freedom, a show here in Prince William County for and about our local veterans. I'm your host, Steve Botello. Our special guest today is a former Marine named Mr. ClancyMcQuigg. Clancy, thank you for coming.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a real pleasure having you here. What I'd like to talk about is a little bit of background about you. Where did you first grow up?
San Francisco, California.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. And roughly when was this?
1945 to about 60, about there, something
Roughly
like
there?
that. Yeah.
When you graduated high school there?
Yeah, I graduated high school from San Mateo Serra High School.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to live in Alameda.
Oh, okay.
I was
Right
stationed-
across the pond.
Yeah, NAS Alameda. So when did you join the Marine Corps?
The Marine Corps sent me to college.
They did. So you graduated
High school, 61.
61, and you were considering going to college where?
University of Utah. Well,
Wow.
they considered me going to college there.
Okay. And what were you going to study there?
Besides skiing,
Yeah?
math.
Math, okay. So did you end up going to that university?
Yes.
Okay. And you said the Marines put you to school. Was it during this time frame?
Yeah.
Okay. So what, did you get a scholarship or something?
Yeah, it was a Navy ROTC scholarship. I was a Marine option.
Really?
Yeah.
You're a brave man.
Well, in those days, this was before 65, and it wasn't a matter of being brave. It was a matter of being poor.
Okay. So roughly what time frame was this when you were going to college?
61 to 65.
61 to 65. Okay. And so you graduated from there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, before, when you decided to go ROTC, was it simply because of money, or were you interested in the military?
Both. I was interested in the military, and the money was important.
Okay. Did you have any background? Did you have family members that were in the military?
I did, but I didn't know it at the time.
At the time.
One of my uncles was in World War I, got gassed.
Wow. Okay. So 65 came along and you graduated.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then what happened?
Second lieutenant, basic school, Quantico, Virginia.
Now that you were there going through basic school, did you have any eye-opening experiences or something like, oh my goodness, this is real?
No.
No?
No, I was totally comfortable with the whole thing.
How did you like it?
I liked it. It was fun.
You got to go play out in the woods and do all that stuff.
That's right. Go play in the woods, go to the rifle range, shoot.
So at the time, did you have any idea of the areas within the Corps that you were interested in going down that path? Or did they give you those options?
Well, I wanted to be a grunt, and they said I was a math major, so I got to go in the artillery instead.
And figure out how to throw the metal, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. So you went through basic school, then where did you go?
To Vietnam.
Okay.
Well, I went to artillery school
out
in Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and then I went to Vietnam.
Then you went to Vietnam. This was 65, 66?
April 66.
Okay. So when you got to Vietnam, were things going pretty well at that time, 65?
No, they never went well.
Okay.
3.5 years I spent there, they never went well.
Okay. So your first duty area, where were you at in Nam?
And Da Nang, and then Hill 22, and then Monkey Mountain.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. When you first got there, was anything different than what you'd heard about, or was it you were young and energetic and and doing all those things, and you got there? What were some of the first impressions that you had?
It's a pretty place. Very pretty. It's a beautiful country. Nice people.
By chance, by the way, have you ever gone back?
No.
No? Okay.
I didn't lose anything there I don't want back.
Okay. So you're there at 55, and then you go to Monkey Mountain. I'd heard stories about that.
Yeah.
Do you have any stories about some of the stuff that went on there?
Other than being ambushed a couple times. My first ambush, I was riding on a tank with my team, and the paint started coming off the tank. So I took my radio operator and threw him off, and I jumped off next to him. He says, "What'd you do that for?" I says, because the paint's coming off the tank. So that means somebody's shooting at us. I ran around the back of the tank to open up the radio, the telephone on the back of the tank to tell them where we were being shot from. And somebody's sea rations were back there. There was no telephone.
Really?
Yeah. So then the tank starts doing its own thing, and I said, this is not good. So he fired a couple rounds into the wood line, and everything calmed down. We got back on the tank and started moving out, and the guy next to me on the tank got shot through the head.
Damn.
And
this was after you got back on?
Yeah.
Wow.
But we didn't get back off that time. We just stayed on, kept moving out. And then there was a little bit of chaos here, a little bit of chaos there. Eventually, we got back to our position.
Were you able, so it didn't, other than, I guess, yelling and talking, were you able to communicate with the tank crew?
No. Not at all.
But they knew that you were on the, did they know that you were on the outside of the tank?
I hope. I don't know.
Damn. Wow. Okay, so you got to where you're going, then what?
Then it was over.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just not that big a deal.
Okay. So you're at Monkey Mountain. How long were you stationed there?
3 months.
3 months.
And then we got moved up into, started working our way up into I-Corps, North Da Nang, and then halfway to Phu in the middle of nowhere. We got transferred from 1-1, which is where I was at the time, to 226. So I was with the 26th Marines for a while. And there, we would go off on patrol and get shot at and get ambushed. And
so you were a grunt on the ground. Now, I remember you said earlier that you were artillery at some point.
Yeah, I was forward observer.
Okay.
So I had all the bullets.
All right. So how was that different than being a regular officer, or for those folks that don't know?
Yeah.
You go out ahead.
No, I go out with the grunts.
With the grunts.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're out there, and the artillery's in the back somewhere.
Yeah, way back.
Way back.
Yeah.
And you're spotting where the artillery needs to go. Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you're right up there where the bullets are flying.
Right up there, 50 meters away.
That's not a good thing.
It's just not that big a deal.
Okay.
You get used to it.
So you were there for 3 months, 4 months? Is that?
I was there for another 4 months, and then I moved up to Phu for a couple of months.
Okay. Was that doing the same thing?
Yeah,
okay.
Same thing. And then I moved up to Camp Carroll, or actually down to the bottom of Camp Carroll in an old Special Forces camp with 2-3.
Right.
And that was an interesting experience, too, because they were a little sloppy.
And these were all Marines?
Yeah, they were all Marines.
And when you say sloppy, in reference to?
They didn't put out point or flank security.
Really?
Yeah. So the NVA paid attention to that. And about that time, I got rotated back to the States for R&R. And 2-3 got wiped out. So, because the NVA paid attention to them, laid up an L-shaped ambush and shot them all. And I don't mean wiped out. About half of them were killed or wounded.
Right.
And then I came back from that to Jiulin, back with the battery then. And I was the XO of the battery. And Jiulin was a click and a half south of the DMZ, and we spent all of our time shooting into North Vietnam.
Wow.
Yeah, we were shooting 1,000 rounds per tube per day.
Is that considered a little, or is that considered a lot, or is that like over the top a lot?
Oh, that's over the top a lot.
Okay.
Nobody else was able to shoot that much.
What's the range on your guns?
About 10 clicks,
Okay.
11 clicks.
So that's about
11,000 meters.
So roughly 10, 12 miles, 14 miles?
10 miles.
10 miles.
Yeah.
That's a long way to throw metal.
It is. Yeah, we were shooting up all of it, Charge 7, up into North Vietnam.
Yeah.
And then they came along and did an artillery ambush onto my battery and destroyed the thing one night.
Really?
Yeah, with 152s and 105s. So everybody was in the battery was, and all the guns were destroyed. And a bunch of guys were killed and wounded. So they pulled us off the line and brought us back down to Dong Ha to retrofit. We retrofitted ourselves, and then we got taken up to Con Tien for the siege of Con Tien.
Yeah.
And that was interesting too.
How so?
Well, we got shot at a lot. They,
A lot.
you know, they had their 122 guns they were shooting at us with, which has a longer range than the 105, so there's nothing we could do about that. And they had 130 guns too that they used to shoot at us to the south. But we stayed up there for a while, and then I came back down to Camp Carroll with 112, with the battalion. And then I was at Camp Carroll, and up until Tet, 68.
Right.
Yeah, it was Tet, 68. And when Tet was going into effect, we were supposed to have a ceasefire. Well, when the ceasefire was supposed to happen, one of my battery commanders got shot at by one of the NVA down on the road. So I said, well, we can't have that, because I had a rule, if you shot at one of my people, I killed you. So I took all the guns I had up at Camp Carroll and I started shooting down to the bottom of Camp Carroll. And people started running around all over the place. So I got the quad 50s up there, and I got the twin 40s up there. I got the 8-inch from Cam Low shooting, and we just tore the area apart. There was 2 NVA regiments down there that were supposed to overrun Camp Carroll, and they never got across the road. I think we killed about 2,000 that night.
Good.
But we used up all of our ammunition. So they had to resupply us the next day by helicopter.
Right.
And that was the beginning of Tet for me. And then I got a battery and went out to Quezon for the siege for a while, which was a lot of incoming artillery. But by then I'd been shot at by so much by incoming artillery, it didn't really matter.
Right.
And then after that, I came back down to Dong Ha. Spent 3 or 4 months in Dong Ha down by 12th Marines. And then I came back to the States. I rotated to the States.
And that was roughly
68
August.
Okay. Yeah. And I went back to Camp Pendleton and started putting together a new battalion. So I started doing that. And we got a mission which was to go up to Los Angeles and suppress the riots with 105 howitzers and Beehive.
You're kidding.
And I'm saying to myself, I've been killing people for 2.5 years now, and I'm supposed to go down to Los Angeles and kill people? I said, this sucks, which I did. But we trained for it.
Did they really? Did they eventually actually deploy anybody to LA?
No, we never got deployed. The rioters quit before we got deployed. But that was for the Watts riots.
Right.
So I spent a year at Pendleton reconstituting a battalion, or battery. No, it was a battalion, matter of fact. And then I got sent to Vietnamese language school in Monterey, which was a good deal, 1 year, right? And then I went to interrogator school out in Baltimore. And then I came back from that, and they said, we're sending you back to Vietnam. I said, wait a minute, there's nobody left. This is where you're going anyway. You're going to be an advisor. I said, okay, good. So I go back to Vietnam as an advisor with the Vietnamese Marine Corps. And I land in Saigon. They gave me a Vietnamese uniform. And no sooner did I put that on, they said, now go get on that airplane over there. So we went over and got on the airplane, and it takes off. I said, where are we going? Don't worry about it. You'll know when you get there. We land at Quezon. So the last time I was in Quezon was during the siege of 68, and now I'm back in 1971 at Quezon again. And I said, deja vu moments is not cool. And the Army was up there with us, U.S. Army. We had all the Marines were going across into Laos, but they wouldn't let the advisors go. We had to stay behind. So I was the Allied Fire Support Coordination Officer for the whole operation.
Right.
And the Army was having problems with their troops fragging the officers. And, you know, I told some of these troops, they said, well, I told them, you guys got to be squared away around me. And they said, well, you know, we're going to just frag your ass. And I said, I'll tell you what, you see those Vietnamese over there? And they said, yeah. I said, well, they're instructed to kill you if you come near my bunker. So if I was you, I would reconsider the fact that it's their country and they don't care. So they stayed away from me.
Wow.
And then I went out and dug a trench around the mess hall without permission. And they asked me what I was doing. I said, the North Vietnamese know where every square inch of this space is. They're going to open up on you and show you how artillery is really used. So your troops have to have a place to go. And they said, well, you just can't be digging holes around our combat base anywhere you want. I said, well, just leave the ones by the mess hall alone. That afternoon, we were all standing in line by the mess hall, and I hear boom, which is, you know, I know what that means. That means Rock Mountain is opened up on us. So I jumped in the hole, and I said, everybody get in the hole. So they all jumped in the hole, and this huge barrage of NVA fire comes flying in and goes off around us. Nobody got touched. Of course, it messed up the mess hall, but other than that, we were okay. So that was an interesting afternoon, too.
So I guess they were glad they listened to you.
Yeah, well, they didn't exactly listen to me. They just quit resisting.
Okay.
Yeah, anyway. So, and then after that, we got our asses handed to us out in Laos. So they pulled us back out, those that survived it, and sent my battalion down to Dong Ha to get on an LST to go back down to Saigon. So they gave us a Korean LST, and I get on a Korean LST and loaded all my troops on there, and we go sailing down to Saigon. That was a lot of fun. The only chow they had aboard this Korean LST was kimchi. For those of you who don't know what kimchi is, it's cabbage, pickled. So we did that and went back down to Saigon, put our batteries and battalion back together and re-outfitted, and then came back up north to the DMZ again. We were at Camp Carroll, and we engaged in a number of firefights with the North Vietnamese from up there. We had already been run out of caisson, so we couldn't operate out there anymore. In 1972, the North Vietnamese were driving tanks around the DMZ. So we reported tank movement up on the DMZ. And the answer from the turkeys in Saigon was, they're defensive tanks. And I said, there's no such thing as a defensive tank. So click off with, you know, and about a week later, they attacked and overran all of our positions.
With the tanks that were defensive.
With the tanks, yes. The defensive tanks overran all of our positions. And their artillery. They had 130 artillery, and they could sit back outside of our range and take us apart, and there's nothing we could do about it.
Great.
And so that's when John Ripley got his Navy Cross for blowing the bridge across the Dong Ha River. And Jerry Turley got in trouble for asking the landing force to land. They said, there's nothing going on up there. He says, we got thousands of North Vietnamese running around up here. What do you mean nothing going on? So they didn't want to believe that we were actually being invaded.
So how long were you stationed up there?
15 months.
15 months?
Yeah, something like that. And then I came back and they sent me to the Naval Postgraduate School. And I was there for 15 months. So they gave me almost 3 years in Monterey, California.
That's not a bad place to be.
That was sweet. They got even with me, though. They sent me to headquarters, Marine Corps.
And that's in Pentagon, or was that in Quantico?
Across the street from the Pentagon at that time.
Okay.
Up in the big yellow building that was part naval personnel, and the other half was headquarters, Marine Corps.
And how long were you there?
5 years.
Wow.
So I was up there for 5 years in law enforcement. And then I got out.
Then you got out.
Yeah.
Now, in some of our previous discussions, after you got out, and what year roughly was this?
77.
77. I believe you had said you volunteered with the fire department?
Yes.
Okay. And how long were you with the fire department?
14 years.
14 years.
Yeah. Till I got injured.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I did not know.
Well, that's the little hole in my head.
Ah, gotcha. You had said that we had talked earlier. Tell me about September 11th and what happened in short.
Okay, quickly. I got off duty at the fire department.
Right.
And I went up to the gym to work out. And on the TV at the gym was the burning World Trade Center.
Right.
And I said, well, that's not good. And then the second one got hit. And you couldn't tell it was a big airplane from what they had on the TV, you know. But there was two big fires going in New York City, and I decided that they needed our help because we had trained with the New York City Special Rescue people.
Right.
So I went back to the firehouse, took my heavy rescue squad, refueled the thing illegally. I took the fuel because there were all of our fuel stations were controlled by the internet, and the internet was down. So I appropriated the fuel and left a note saying I took 55 gallons of diesel. And different people drifted in. We manned the heavy rescue squad, and we were getting ready to go to New York, we thought. And they said, no, you're not. You're going to the Pentagon. I said, why are we going to the Pentagon? Because it just got hit. So we go up to the Pentagon and get up there, and the place is burning pretty good. And parked right over there where the plane went in. Went up on the roof, and we were fighting fires on the roof. And then we came down, and we were inside searching for survivors, of which there were none. All the survivors managed to get themselves out.
I was going to say, by the time you got there, it was what, an hour afterwards?
At least an hour. Might have been closer to 2.
And you're right. Most people
Self-rescue.
that could
Yeah.
got the heck out of there.
Right. The place was full of dead people, but they were all burned up, covered with white ash from the asbestos from the implosion of the airplane. And then we spent the next 14 hours searching the building, fighting fires on the inside of the building. And I guess about 5 o'clock in the morning, they relieved us.
Right.
And we came back down to Woodbridge.
Oh, okay. So when they relieved you, it was to leave the scene, not just step away.
No.
Sleep.
You put your stuff back on the truck and go home.
At the time that happened, had you been able to really have a grasp of the immensity of the attack?
Sure.
So you had gotten other information from, say, like the Pennsylvania stuff and...
Well, I don't know about the Pennsylvania stuff, but all the time we were in the building, they kept blowing the whistle and saying, get out, there's another attack coming.
So you had repeatedly to leave and go back in.
Right.
Wow, and what were you thinking? Here it comes again.
I think it's a long walk out. And then we were inside the building, and it was hot from the fire.
Right.
And we couldn't ventilate because our axes wouldn't break the windows, so we were kind of stuck on the inside of this big stone concrete crematorium. Hot.
Did they ever figure a way to vent? I don't know much about firefighting. Did they ever figure a way to vent?
No.
So it just stayed hot for a long, long time.
Oh, it did. Yeah.
Wow. That's challenging. I just can't. That had to have been so devastating to experience that and see it up front.
No, it wasn't devastating.
No?
I was alive. My people were alive.
Okay.
That's what counts.
That's true. They got home at the end of the day.
Everybody got home at the end of the day.
Wow. You've led a very colorful and active life. Now, so what are you doing now with your time?
I'm inventing things.
You're inventing things.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good. Well, if you'd ever like to come back to the show, love to have you back. I'm sure you would have a bazillion more stories.
Oh, I have a few stories.
And I'm sure the audience would love to hear about it. I personally thank you for your service and your time.
Well, thank you.
And for both as a Marine and both in the fire department. If you have the time, we'd love to have you back.
Okay, thank you.
Not a problem. I'd like to thank our sponsors, VFW 7589, the American Legion Post 10, Vietnam Veterans Post 617, and DAV Chapter 15. I'm your host, Steve Botello, and I thank you for watching our show. Your time is very much appreciated.